I want to start out by just telling you how this all came about, which is that I asked Andy Miller if I could give this talk, and he said anything I wanted to talk about was fine, and Rad approved it, and they also had approved it before. What I want you to understand is they're taking a big risk because they have absolutely no idea what I'm about to do. In addition to that,
take full responsibility, Michael.
In addition, I want you to know something about the Japan Karate Association, which is run by Mr. Sugiyama, who also is taking a big risk because he knows nothing about mediation, and yet he is sponsoring this with the center. So basically the Japan Karate Association is worldwide. It has branches essentially throughout the world, all major countries, Hungary, Egypt, whatever country, large countries we think of. And the central dojo for the Midwest is run up here at Clark and Belmont, and there are many branches of it throughout the Midwest. Mr. Sugiyama runs that, and there are branches in the suburbs. There's some branches at the University of Chicago, at Northwestern, at the University of Illinois, and so there are many around. And he's written a number of books on karate and trained a number of people who have become national champions. So it's a very good dojo. This is Mr. Milewski, who's going to be helping me today. Mr. Milewski worked in the steel mills for about 30 years. He's run a dojo himself for about 30 years, and as you can see from the handout, he runs a dojo in northern Indiana, which is also a part of the Japan Karate Association, and he also trains at the central dojo, so we both are there, but he mainly teaches me, so that's how he is. And he's going to be helping today in demonstrating some things which I don't do very well. So we're both wearing black belts, but don't misunderstand. The difference in quality between the two of us is enormous, so that's why he has agreed to help. What I want to do is to try and merge two cultures, that of karate and mediation. These have two separate outcomes, which we'll talk about in just a minute, but a great deal of what happens in both, from my standpoint, are identical. That is, the techniques and the process, from my standpoint, look very much the same. And that's what I'm going to try and convince you of, and see if I can get you to see how you can use some karate techniques to enhance what you do in mediation. So my purpose is twofold here today. One, that you walk out of here thinking, well, gee, there's a lot of what I saw which looks pretty ridiculous, and I don't really see the connection. But maybe if on one or two items you do see the connection, then it'll enhance your technique when you mediate just a little bit. So that's one thing I'm hoping. Secondly, this is obviously something I do that's outside of mediation, and my hope is that you'll be able to say, well, if Michael can do something like that, there must be something I do outside of mediation that I can bring to bear on mediation, and maybe you can stand up here and I can listen to how you do that, and I'll learn something. So those are my two purposes, really. There's a couple of disclaimers. You will hear us use a number of Japanese words. This is because many of the things we do, we only know as Japanese words. We don't understand exactly how it all works in English without long sentences to describe it. This does not mean we know anything about Eastern philosophy or Japan or the Japanese language or anything like that. I mean, I don't, and so neither of us do. So it's going to sound like we understand a lot of that stuff, but really we don't. The second thing is I want to apologize to the non-mediators here. Anything we talk about that is a mediation technique, we're not going to try and define, because the purpose of this is to help mediators, and we just assume everybody understands those words. We're going to explain the karate stuff, but not the mediation stuff. I also want to tell you how I look at this. This is the third disclaimer. If you assume for the moment that all mediators can be ranked like from 1 to 10 around the world, any mediator you found, then let's say that I am a 5. That's how good a mediator I am. What I think this sort of thing has helped me do is to sort of put a patina on what I do, or marginally improve what I do. So instead of a 5, by knowing something about karate, maybe I'm a 5.2. Not a big absolute difference, but I think in a tough mediation, it can make a difference. That's mainly what it's done for me, and I want to convince you that you can do it for you. What you're going to see is mainly Mr. Milewski, in part of this, mainly Mr. Milewski doing some standard demonstrations of karate techniques. And why do I think that that's important? Why did I ask him to come and do this? It is because I want to use Ernest Hemingway as the example. He said that he would look at a painting and try and understand how the artist made a transition within the painting so that he could better understand how to make a transition in his writing. mediation is primarily something that is internal and mental, and then verbal. Karate is something that is also internal and mental, but it's very visual. I mean, you can watch it happening, right? I mean, it's physical and visual. So it's the same. I'm trying to use Ernest Hemingway as an objective standard, as you can see. It's a matter of saying that, you know, if it was good enough for him, it ought to be good enough for us to try and use the visual, what you see visually, to make an impression on you and make it easier for you to translate that into something verbal. Maybe it's not clear, but anyway, that's how I think about it. And I could do this with anything, right? I mean, you could take almost any subject like karate and do this. You could do it with embryology, or you could do it with psychology, I think. It wouldn't matter, because I think these techniques are all very similar across many different disciplines. Let me tell you how I discovered that this sort of works. I was doing a training at Kent for some Kent law students about 4 years ago, and one of the trainees was trying to get the attention of a party for doing an initial statement. Unable to do it, she tried a number of techniques, and she stopped and asked me, well, how can I do this better? And I don't know why, but I said, did you ever do martial arts? And she said, yes. And I said, well, why don't you try to project your ki? We're going to talk a lot about ki in just a few minutes. She did that and got his attention. It worked for her. And so that made me think, well, gee, if that worked for her, maybe I should look at all the techniques I know in karate and try and apply some of those. So I'm going to start out by just giving you a couple of examples of things that I thought of doing that I think actually work. 3 of these are from training, and one of them is just a regular mediation technique. In the training, what happened was that, well, maybe I can use Mr. Malewski as an example. When we're doing karate, sometimes Mr. No, not as a practice. I'm going to try. When we're doing karate, sometimes Mr. Malewski or someone else, but it's usually Mr. Malewski, will say to me, Michael, stop thinking, just act. And so if I do that, it seems to help. And I've tried this during trainings with people when they're trying to figure out what to do. And if I say to them, just stop thinking and act, the same thing Mr. Malewski says to me, sometimes that really helps people. You know, they're developing to some point, and they're at a point where they're still trying to figure things out, but really they sort of intuitively know now, but they're afraid to take the next step. Mr. Sugiyama has a theory, which is that, in karate anyway, which is that the more, if he knows how many degrees, university degrees you have, he can sort of predict that it'll take you a lot longer to learn karate. And so I think the same thing may be true in mediation, I'm not sure. A second thing is that when we do trainings, you know, it's a 4-day training, and when we do trainings, we are mainly doing simulations, right? We don't spend very much time where somebody has a particular kind of a problem, helping them with that particular problem. So both in my own business and helping people here at CCR, I try to focus on a specific problem they have, because in karate, as you probably know from watching like The Karate Kid, they're mainly going over and over the same thing, right? Over and over the same thing, which is what we do. We spend very little time actually sparring, and most of the time trying to learn individual techniques in the hope that the techniques will feed into the sparring correctly. So what we've done, and Andy has done an experiment with this, is to try, when we have time, to take people who are in training and give them an extra hour just on the problem they have. So one time what we did was to split up, and I think I took people who had trouble reality testing, you took people who had trouble with acknowledging emotion, and that seemed to help a lot, to take the time to just focus on the specific problem people have. So that's the second way in which I think things would help in training. A third way is to try and relate what people are trying to learn to something outside of mediation if you're trying to train them. So for example, sports works very well, a lot better than I would have guessed before I started taking karate. So if you can say, well, how do you do whatever happens to be in mediation, how would you do that when you're doing the sport that you like? Like I was training a woman, actually from Ireland a little while ago, in a class I was teaching in the fall, and she couldn't get it, but she's a very good soccer player. And by trying to relate how she approaches soccer to mediation, the light went on. So I guess I would just suggest that if you're doing training, that you might want to consider doing something like that. If somebody has a problem, ask them about their business, about sports they do, and see if you can relate that to the sport or to the training. About 2 months ago, I was doing a mediation, and this is the one application I want to give you now, and we'll go into a lot of others later in the mediation itself. what happened was that I was actually in this room, and I was having a lot of trouble after about 4 hours. I was tired, the parties were tired, we really weren't getting very far. And so what I did, and you'll hear more about this in just a few minutes, was to just try and calm myself more than we usually do. I tried to take my ki and send it internally, to breathe more regularly, which is what breathing is ibuki, to breathe more regularly and to focus on my tanten, which is what we're going to talk about in just a few minutes, and to try and open up my ears even more to do the reflective listening. And when I did that, even though I think I'm pretty good at it normally, I was able to hear a little bit more about needs and interests, and I heard a little bit more about where people were agreeing, because I hadn't heard that before. So I think it did help me move that mediation forward. And these are all techniques from karate. Well, if you turn to the page that says, what is karate? I'm not going to read most of what is karate, but I just want to go to number 4, because what you're going to see Mr. Milewski do a lot of is this. The emphasis in karate is on focus, what we call kime, bringing all parts of the body together in a single punch, kick, whatever, coordinated by the breath. And the idea is to synchronize the entire body to support one point, which contacts the point on the opponent's body for just a second, not a minute, with maximum concentrated power. So it's right, it's this, but everything. And you'll see Mr. Milewski do this a whole lot better than I can, so I'm even try and demonstrate it. Let me talk now about the purposes of karate, because I want to get something off of the table. One of the purposes of karate is the first one you see there. It's basically self-defense. And the whole idea behind it is the finishing blow. So compared to softer kinds of martial arts like judo or taekwondo, but aikido, where people are trying to just move somebody out of the way and temporarily get them out of the way, in karate we're actually trying to hurt someone and stop them. We don't want them to get up again, because the whole idea is to go against multiple people, and you want to actually stop somebody from moving. So what I'd like to do to get this off the table, I'm going to show you just about 2 minutes of a tape. This is from the international championships some years ago in Egypt and in Hungary. I just want you to see what it is that happens when people are actually doing sparring. And then we're going to take that off the table, because it's the one thing that is not similar. Right? In mediations, we're after agreements. In karate, one of the purposes is to disable an opponent. So let me do that, and then we'll get this out of the way. So, well, you get the idea. This is the sort of thing that Mr. Milewski might do, I wouldn't dare. But I mean, that's the idea. That's an international competition. I forget whether that was Egypt or Hungary some years ago. So now let's look at what are some of the key karate concepts. And if somebody else were doing this, they might do it somewhat differently than what I'm about to describe. But I'm trying to do this to make the maximum relationship between karate and mediation. So the first thing is that there is this idea for Japanese sword masters. Kendo is Japanese, the art of Japanese swording. So, so if you see people doing this kind of thing, that's the Japanese sword techniques. And the basic idea there is what it says here, which is that Ken 3, Zen 7. Ken means sword, Zen is of course related to the mind. And the idea is that the sword techniques themselves, that is how well you wield the sword, your technique, all of that, is very secondary to your mental state. The key thing that makes for success in sword fighting is the mental state. The same thing's true in karate. It's not so much, it's It's the mind that drives everything else. So even though it looked very physical, what you saw, highly physical, but actually in the training, what those people are trying to learn is how to control their mind. It's the fundamental issue here, and I want to translate that into mediation. You'll hear Mr. Molesky talk about this again. So in karate, it's one state of mind that's the key thing. You win not against the opponent, right? These people are not, it looks like they're trying to win against the opponent, but they're not. It's a tricky concept. They're trying to win against themselves, right? Against things that are in their mind that don't work, like fear, doubt, indecisiveness, ego. And so a lot of what people are trying to do is to achieve a state which is an empty mind state, a state of nothingness. I've heard people who are very good in karate sparring talk about that their mind is empty, that there's kind of a circle around their mind, and that nothing affects them unless something crosses that circle and then they react, that kind of thing. Different people would describe all of this differently. I'm trying to make a relationship. The kanji symbol, that is those Japanese symbols that go into making words in Japanese, which indicates process or path or way or flow, is the same for all of those things that I've listed at the bottom. Whether you're talking about kendo for Japanese sword fighting, whether you're talking about karate, whether you're talking about ikebana, which is the flower arranging, or the tea ceremony, or Japanese archery, it doesn't really matter. Because it's all about process, not about outcome. The whole idea is that if you do the process correctly, then the outcome will come however it's going to come. Doesn't really matter. So the process is key, and that's why the tea ceremony in karate, one looks peaceful, one doesn't, are really identical. Because in both cases, you practice the process itself. And if the tea works out well, great. If you've learned the process well. In the karate, if you've done the forms right, if you've learned the technique well, if your mind's in the right state, it will work out okay.
What is the kanji symbol?
I don't have it with me. I should have brought it. I don't believe I brought it. But I can get it for you. It's very easy. Mr. Sugiyama drew it for me, so I have a big picture of it. So what I'd like to do now is to talk a little bit about aura and ki. And so let me explain first what ki is for anybody who doesn't already know. There's a concept. Keep in mind also, I'm saying what I know, and I really don't know anything more than what I'm saying. I don't know anything about Japanese or Eastern philosophy. So the idea of chi in Chinese is something of an inner force, a soul, so it's our spirit in English, that sort of thing. In Japanese, the word is ki. There's a slight difference between the two in that in Chinese, I understand it's more of an internal matter, and for ki in Japanese, what's happening is it's more taking that internal force and being able to project it or to feel it. This is the same sort of thing that people will talk about if they're doing acupuncture, how they're going to do the acupuncture to move. I have an expert here, so I know I'm saying this right. How you're going to move the ki or the chi around and get it right. The aura that we're going to talk about, sometimes I've seen on television, aura healers. So the aura is a manifestation of the ki you can visually see. And what people do is they stand over someone and try and reshape their aura, reshape or change the color of the aura, because the aura is a manifestation of the ki. And if the ki's not in good shape, if your internal spirit isn't right, then they want to change that around and make you healthy again. If you take a look at the picture that's passed out, it's toward the back, I think, just to bring an objective standard to bear. Yeah, right. You can see there's a Business Week. Thanks. There's a Business Week article here. So some photojournalist actually decided that it was okay to take that photograph, print it up, right? Because what that man is doing is sending ki and knocking somebody up against a wall without touching them. We do stuff a little bit like this at Japan Karate Association. We move people just a little bit. I've never seen anything like that. But I'm just pointing out, it is Business Week, so whatever that's worth. Let me just explain a little more about ki. The best definition that I've seen of it is of the kanji symbol itself, which is a symbol for uncooked rice, but that is being heated so that the steam is rising off of the rice rise, but not at the point that the steam condenses. The point at which you can sort of see something, but not actually see the steam itself. There is heat, there is energy. And the whole idea is that so that is the kanji symbol in Japanese for heat. And what I'm trying to tell you is, so it's a little bit of an intangible, yet it is real. It is hot, it is energy. So what we're going to do is to actually practice a little bit, having to do with ki. I want to practice with you a little bit, because when you watch Mr. Milewski, I want you to have a feel for this, about where he's going with it. So if everybody would stand up, please. Nobody's going to get hurt, so don't worry about anything like that. Let me tell you that there is a place in your body which is 3 fingers below your belly button. Everybody would do that. And then 3 fingers into your body. So if I do this, my fingers would intersect at my tanden. It's the part of the body where you are sort of centered. It's the part of the body where if I put you on a skewer and rotated you like a propeller, you wouldn't fall off. You'd be perfectly balanced. And for these concepts of ki, it's from the mind, but centered here. So what I would like everybody to do is just stand and relax. What I'm about to do is try and get you to feel a little bit of ki. Don't worry if you don't feel anything. It's fine. I just want to take you through, what we're doing here today in an hour and a half is to try and tell you everything you need to know about karate in an hour and a half. It's essentially impossible, but we're trying anyway. So the whole idea is that try and just relax and imagine that all of the energy of your body, while it may start here, is centered at your tanden. Try and gather your energy and get it there or feel it there. And now I'd like you to take your hand, and even if this didn't work for you so far, and imagine that there's a cord from the center of your palm attaching to inside your body at the tanden where the energy is. And what we're going to do is begin to just move it around like this. So think energy in the middle of your abdomen being moved around, and try and feel it moving around inside your body. Now I can feel it. I don't know if anybody can. Okay, so I just want you to get the idea of how this works. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add energy to that. So we're going to do a little bit of ki exercises. There are lots of ways to do this. So I'm going to begin to demonstrate. What I'm going to do is to, keeping in mind that this is where the center of my energy is at the tanden, what I'm going to do is to reach down to the center of the earth. Right, it's about 5 billion years old when the earth was formed. There's a huge amount of energy there. Right? It was hot. It's still hot. There's a lot of radioactivity in the earth. It's pumping out stuff like about 1,000 nuclear plants a day, something like that. So I'm going to reach down to the core of the earth for all that energy. Raise it up through the soles of my feet and into my tanden. Then I'm going to send it up my spine, and I'm going to put it out my right palm. So just stand so that you're not going to block someone else in trying to do this. And send it around the world. So I'm now pushing that energy around the world to the right. I'm going to pick it up in my left hand as it comes around. And now I'm going to send it back down to the center of the earth. So let's try this. And as we do it, I'm going to breathe. And when I end the technique, that's when I'm going to have my breath fully out. So it's something like, and try and breathe from here. Pick it up in this hand, back down to the center of the earth. Side. So that's one way to do it. There's hundreds of ways to do this. One more exercise with this, and then we'll stop the key thing. I just want you to get a feel for all of this. We're now going to reach up slightly behind us with our right hand. And keeping in mind that the universe is about 15 15 billion years old and expanding like crazy, huge amounts of energy. We are going to think of gathering all that energy in our right palm. You can imagine all that energy out there. We're going to bring it down into the Tanden, and back up again and to the center of the earth. And the other side. And try and coordinate your breath, your exhale with it. Again, reach for the energy, breathe in, and now breathe out. Right. Okay. Good. Let me just tell you that, I mean, you all remain standing just for about a few more minutes. Let me tell you that Anthony Quinn, the actor, when describing his role in Viva Zapata, I'll read you the direct quote, said that there was a cauldron at the Earth's center that he drew up through his legs into his body and out to the audience in order to gain the power that he portrayed in that movie. This concept, I'm saying, even if you don't know anything about karate or ki, is fairly widespread. Now what we want to do is look at the manifestation of the ki, which is something called aura. We all have what I think is just an electromagnetic sort of energy around us that we can visually, we can see it. We can all actually see it. I think it's electromagnetic. What people who like ki would say is it's a manifestation of your inner spirit and of your energy. This is Melissa Schwartz, who most of you know. She is a caseworker here. And I don't remember how long ago, but maybe a year ago, that long. Right, so she'd been trying to see ki for a while, and there was a discussion here about ki, and people were saying it takes years to be able to see it, but actually it usually takes about 10 minutes. And what we're going to do here, we'll just spend 3 minutes on it. And also, Melissa, I don't know if we could take like 60 seconds and just explain what it is that happened to you in this recent mediation.
Okay. Well, first of all, I had been trying to learn how to see auras for, I think, a year. From the time that I heard about them to the time I was trying to see them was like a year. And Michael was tutoring me or mentoring me on mediation, and he taught me in like 1 minute a year later. And that was so incredible. But now I don't really look for it that often, but every once in a while I'll just see it. If you're in a mediation, for example, like I was a couple weeks ago, and you're looking at somebody for a long period of time and they're talking to you, so you're focusing on them. Like a couple weeks ago I was at a mediation, and my two parties were very productively having their conversation, and the respondent was talking and I was really focused listening to her, and all of a sudden I just saw this little dot of, just a little round dot kind of come off of her. It was like a positive energy that she was just letting off. And then 2 minutes later I was talking to the initiator. The initiator was actually talking to me. And the same, it was a very productive venting that was going on from her end. And I saw a little dot of energy or something just fly off of her. So it was interesting. It didn't really help me. It helped in the mediation a little bit just to help me know to focus in on them and let that positiveness come off of them and let it continue and manifest.
Thank you. So what I'm going to be saying in part about aura and particularly about ki is that so in karate what we're interested in, if we can sense, and Mr. Molesky will explain a little more, if we can sense somebody's ki that they're coming at you, it tells you whether to hit them or escape or whatever. And I think I'm trying to tell you throughout this that to the extent that you can learn to use ki, first of all, you may be able to sense something coming from a party. If you can see a change in the aura, I cannot, never done it. That's not a technique I know how to do yet in mediation, but maybe you can sense someone changing their mind. And on the other hand, this I have used, if you're in a situation where you're trying to control parties, where the situation is difficult, if you send ki, trying to get somebody's attention, then that can have a positive effect. And I've already told you once when I did that a little bit, and I'll talk about that a little more. So what we want to do, and Melissa's going to help, she's going to take people on this side, and I'm going to take people on that side. We want to see if anybody here can see the aura. So here's what I'd like you to start doing. If I take my hands like this with the rug as the backdrop behind it, and bring my fingers, particularly the central two fingers, together, and look through them to the rug, I can see a white light between my fingers. And if I pull my fingers apart, I can see that light moving. If I do that, I can see the light moving. So you see it.
Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
see it. Anybody else? Okay. Good. Okay. So that's what we're talking about. And if you don't see it here today, that's okay. I've had people where I've tried to teach them this. They don't see it. 3 days later, they suddenly see it. So I may get a phone call from someone saying you've seen it. So that's one way to try and see the aura. What we're going to go around and try and help you with at the moment is also, you can see it, like if I look at Tom's shoulder right now and his head, I see an aura coming off of it about that way, that size. Can you see? Okay. Right. So what I want you to do, let me explain. What this is going to be is, it's like if you were looking at my shoulder or my head and you could see it, it would be about an inch high usually. Sometimes it's huge. I can see it going up to the ceiling. About an inch high off my shoulder. It's translucent. It seems to have a little edge to the top of it. Can anybody see that on me? No? Okay, Tom, you can? Anybody else see anything on top of my shoulder? You can. Okay.
Is it difficult because you're standing against a white wall?
Okay.
That might be.
Okay.
Or he's dead.
The fluorescent.
Okay.
Stand against
This wall, Michael.
This wall.
Stand against this wall.
I can see it on Ed. I can see it above his shoulder. And I can see it on John.
Got a dark color.
And I can see it on Shalene. It's on her right shoulder. Against that wall, I can see it's very strong, coming down her arm like this. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the idea. We can't spend. I guess we won't take the time to work with it. We want to do just one other thing, which is that we want you to try and use what you've already learned, which may not seem like much, to maybe nobody's learned anything, to do what we call the unbendable arm exercise. So the first thing we're going to try to have you do. So, Mr. Molesky, if I can. Yeah, please. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to do the following. Get a partner and just put your arm like this on the partner's shoulder. You're going to press down like this on the elbow.
Push your weight.
But you do not have to actually push an enormous amount or bend the arm because what you're going to do is to do this twice. It's the comparison that's important for you. So if Mr. Molesky and I do it, he's quite strong and he'll bend my arm. But you don't have to do that. So the first thing to do, get a partner, do that, and put pressure here, and both of you get a feel for the extent to which you would bend your arm if somebody pushed really hard. I don't want anybody to get hurt, which is why I don't want people to push really hard. So if you would try that, thank you. If you would try that, go ahead, try that. Go ahead, John. Go ahead. Get a partner and try it. Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to push too hard.
How much?
Okay.
Resist as much as you want.
Yeah, resist as much as you can. Thank you very much. And the person who asked me, I will. So try and resist. Try and resist with your hand.
Except you have to put your hand like, he has it like that. That's how he did it.
Okay, let's stop. Now I want you to do it.
Now let me.
Now I would like you to do it a second time. But this time when you do it, I want you to do it differently. Think of what I just told you about ki, about pulling energy up from the earth. So you put your hand out. You can stand straight. It doesn't matter. I do this just naturally. So you put your hand out in exactly the same way, except this time, instead of trying to resist the way you did, whatever you did, I don't care. Now what you're going to do, try to bring up energy into the tanden, send the energy out your arm, pick a point far away on the wall or beyond the wall. If you can see through the wall, that's fine. And now send your vision and send this energy through the arm and to the distance and see if that feels any different than what you just did a minute ago. Pick a point far away on the wall as you do this. send your vision and your ki through your arm and out to infinity.
Yeah.
Does anybody notice a difference? Or is it all the same? Is the first and second time the same, or is there a difference? What's the difference? Pardon? Harder to push him down the second time. Right. So everybody's into this. But we have such little time. If I could get you to stop, please. So everybody can sit down. The point of all of this, the whole point of all of this that we've just gone through, is that as Mr. Milewski shows you what he's going to do, as we do some demonstrations, I want to come back to what I said a few minutes ago. This whole thing is about process and your state of mind. You see that the extent to which you have power is not determined by focusing on strength. It is determined by what you're doing with your mind. Sending ki out, for example, can make you stronger. Visioning things can make you stronger than just sort of doing this sort of thing. So that's the main point that I'm trying to make. Well, what we're going to do now is that Mr. Milewski is going to show you, first of all, the wrong way to punch in karate. Then he's going to take all of the karate techniques that we use, whether it's a punch or a block or a kick, it doesn't matter. They all are going to have the identical techniques involved. But he's going to show you all this just via the punch itself and build up these techniques. And then he's going to show you the right way to punch using all the techniques together. You're not going to do any of this. He's going to do it all. But the whole point of this is that when I come to telling you some additional things that we do or that I think is transferable from karate to mediation, I want you to have visually seen some of these things. We've gone over some of them. Mr. Milewski is going to show you some additional ones. He's then going to do a kata, and we'll explain what that is, and we're going to do a little bit more demonstration. And then I'm going to take the remainder of the time, which is just really about 10 minutes, to explain how I can use some of these techniques you'll be seeing. I've already explained some of it. I'm going to explain about 10 more after we finish this part of the demonstration. So, Mr. Milewski.
Wish I could talk as good as him, huh?
Yeah, we all do.
I hope you can understand. I do karate. It can't be taught really. It has to be done through application. You can pick up a book and study it all you want. Try to teach it. It doesn't work that way. It's by doing. So my speaking is not as good as his, but my doing is better than his. I'm not the best there is either. I'm still learning. Explain the tandem and what you're doing in a bendable arm. Okay? Mentally first, stable emotions you have to have. You're in an office. So the mind, you want to explain number one?
Do you want to do that, or you want to show someone, you want to do a little demonstration with the wrong punch first?
Oh yes, the wrong punch. Right? Who here has played some sports? Young guy? Old, young? You played sports? Young guy? Youngest guy?
Sure.
Yes?
I just ate.
No, I won't hurt you. What's your name?
Steve.
Steve? To relate with sports, like you said earlier, helps, okay? So I wanted an athlete type person, okay? How old are you? 28? I want you to one time punch this way. With one hand, you want to punch right? All right. Yeah, just somebody punch one time. One more time. Punch the target. Okay? One more time. Punch the target. One. Stay there. One time. Stay there. Notice his heel off the floor. So already he has no power. Notice his arm out of his body. Correct? Mm-hmm. Already no power. Only he's striking. He's a big guy. A lot of power here. But he's only striking with his arm. Okay? So we've lost a lot of power here. Okay? Next, punch again. Don't snap back. I'll get to the snap back later. Punch again. One.
You want me to?
No power. You can see. Very easily balance off. Okay? Now, snap back. One. no power. So sideways. Steve. Good one. So this is called, we call ping pong. You know, ping pong. Feel different?
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit.
This feeling, nothing. This feeling from the tendon. This is only anybody can do. Understand?
Yeah.
This is ideal. Okay? That's all I want you to write down. Sit right there. Will you?
Okay.
I'll use you later. Unless you have to make notes or something. You want to
No.
write your notes or something. Okay, so this is not talking about any other karate, just showing this is about mental. Also, he wasn't looking. That's what I'm beginning into. Punching. No direction, power. You're not sending it. Looking, then now not looking. Right? So you play baseball, right? What you play?
I swam.
You swam?
I was a swimmer, yeah.
Well, my son's a professional triathlete.
Okay.
Still, you have to bring your head up and look,
Yeah.
right? The direction you're going.
Yeah.
Swimming this way, go off course,
Yeah.
right? In the other, if everybody going straight, you're going somewhere outside the pool. All right? Same idea. Baseball, already looking, going to throw the ball. Where? Home plate. Balance, body, rotation. Keep looking. Throw the ball. Watch, continue, ball go. Okay? All right? So this way now.
Okay, so we're on the want to follow along on the first page, Principles of Karate. So the first is win, then attack, and mind before impact. Win, then attack, mind before impact.
So what I just said, win, then attack. So on karate purpose, like throwing ball. Already, mentally, I'm going to destroy opponent. Mentally. Not, I'm going to go physically, hope I destroy him. Already prepared. Mentally, I'm going to destroy. This is mind power. Next. Key. Key. Key is energy, mental energy, controlled by the mind, but using force, direction, sending, pressure, key, like you just did in bendable arm. Pressure, pushing, one. Can knock down opponent, not even touching him with mental energy. This is a force of mental energy, controlled strictly by, oh, I don't know if I can do it, I try. I'm not going to do it. I can do it. I'm going to push it. Go, keep go, 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 go. Next opponent fall. Okay? This is not knockdown punch. This is just your mental energy. Controlling an opponent and maybe talking to someone.
Tandem.
Tandem. So next time I was showing you men of arm, but not so detailed because time precious. Tandem. Now Steve, come up please. 3 inches below the navel. Oh, would you hold it for 1 second, Toph? Point. Oblique. Squeeze. Remember you said push in? Think like exercising machine. Stomach muscle, 1, in. Other muscle, 2, in. So 3 inches below the navel. Underside, tuck under. So these buttocks, maximus. Underside, tuck under. Buttocks touch. Tailbone meaning centered, 3 inches below the navel. Squeeze. Spine straight, remember that point? Head's not bending forward. Okay? So this is pelvic bone tuck. Floor, baseball spike, base. Pelvic floor, second. Now, this is focusing here. This is all relaxed. So when you go into an office, a little nervous, underside tuck, squeeze, relax. First part of the body is relaxed. Okay? Now, power. Internal, external. A little bit lower. You're too big, I know. All right.
Not much
Okay.
lower.
Okay? My feeling. Inhale. Remember the buttocks. Okay? Inhale. Exhale. Want to do again? Want to do again? The harder he pushes, the more I can knock you back, right? He's bigger because he's pushing. So balance, I can knock you back. My spine is straight, like stabilizing rod coming down through the body. Now shifting inside. Oh, you sit down. There's an example. Imagine like you ever take a toilet tank off? Ball. Here we get new toilets, probably don't have it now, right? Mine still has. Fill up toilet. Ball, flotation. So inhale through nasal. We have normal breathing, unconscious. Now we have control breathing, abdominal. This is going into ibuki. So inhaling. No shoulder tension. Inhale through nose. Exhale, push down solar plex to pelvic floor. Tailbone tuck. Oblique squeeze it. This is like shifting 3 inches forward. So mental, sending an R energy. 1, 2. 1 point. So I told this lady here, look over there. Hook your eyes to that door hinge. Send. Hook like telephone wire. Hook. Pull eye back, stomach back, unhook. So continue sending, all right?
Ballistic motion with rotation and relaxation.
I forgot one thing before I get into that. Ibuki, this synchronizes everything into a single action. This is the beginning and the ending. So the rhythm of the breathing is very important, like music, timing. This feeling this way, and then I'll get back to that. Inhale, take that fuel up, gas tank. Exhale, push down, make force, like lifting weights. Now we're driving force out. Inhale, exhale. This is all relaxed. This muscle, bicep, the pec, is like a brake with the stomach. 1, 2, 3. Okay? No pushing, reaching.
From the coming. I'm sorry, ballistic motion with rotation, relaxation.
Next. This is doing karate stance, forward stance. Gyakuzuki, gonna be punching. Making pressure floor. Imagine spring, your watch. Maybe you broke your band, you gotta push the spring down, pops, it takes off. Just coiling. Making floor, pressure, rotate, turning spring, pressure floor. Now the spring ready to go.
From the coming.
Wait. I'm saying you want the rotation.
Yeah.
So pressure floor. Now you have rotation power. Maximum pressure. Moving. Direction punch. I. Already, where it going? There. Pressure. Already I'm going to destroy point. 1. Okay, this is Fumakomi here. Driving, ballistic, rotation, hip, making momentum for power. Top side relaxing, think like lever, pulling. 1, pull lever. Punch eye. 1, shooting straight line. Arm, same line. Left hand, hanky call. Pull, relax, like pulling, rope, pull. Body drive, then snap. Okay? So squeeze, rotate, punch. This is called hime. This is from shortest distance to target. Maximum pressure, force, drive, short time, straight line. Hime. Like the brake, Fumakomi, this is pressing in the floor. Like ball inside somebody said, inhale. Push floor, stomach, like ball. Pop. Ball. Shoot it up. Okay?
Zanchin.
Zanchin is afterwards. 1, hime. continuing on. Not becoming attached to anything. Sending it to infinity, ready for opponent's next move. So pressure, go. Ping pong, can't go again. No pressure. So like rock skipping. Not, okay? Pour a glass of water, shh, flat. Take a glass of water, shot, go. Okay?
So physically over mentally continuing.
Okay, so next I'll show you with a
Can we
pad.
just see you do that one more time, how you just did?
On
left-
shin.
Yes, on shin, yeah. It was just-
All right,
you
design
went
chance,
back to
let me
that.
explain it another way for you to understand that. How many of you have a cat? Or watch a cat, or watch TV, Discovery Channel, lion attacking an animal. Sometimes a lion isn't hungry either, right? Or your cat, you feed him, he's always full. So he don't want it, he just wants to play. So cat, boom, got the bird, mouse, whatever it is. He's got him. This is the key man. Got him. Now release. Pressure still looking, watching, waiting. If I go back, mouse escape. I already keep focusing. I release him, but mentally I did not release him. Right? Much like a wolf pack. He don't want to kill. Young wolf wants to take over the ladies, right? Dominant wolf, no, you're not. So he beats him up. Gets on top of him. He don't want to kill him. He needs him for hunting. So, other way. Right? Everybody go this way. He's going to take over, maybe. See? Warning. So mine still remains. If he moves again, wants to fight some more, I'm going to get you. Same idea. So body, one, one. Pressure. This! More pressure. Always using floor, rebound, pressure, mentally going. Okay?
So now what we're going to do is to try and contrast the wrong way to punch with the right way to do it. It's going to put everything together and punch. So I mean, but keep in mind, look, I mean, this is all, I mean, even though we're doing half of this time about demonstrating karate, keep in mind what we're trying to do. We're trying to present some visual images of what can be used verbally eventually. So that's where we're going with this.
So what I could be showing kicks and jumps, and we don't do any of this stuff. This is all meant on straight lines for power, okay? Direct. So we're still keeping it at this technique and application. Okay, now I want to step back a little bit. Maybe go maybe 45. Applying all this now. This is pads. Naturally, destroy opponent. So we're going to use this. Okay? So pressure. This I'm going to go in between speed. Squeeze. Already looking. Now, watch this point. Wrong way. Karate even. No power. Now I'm saying looking. Pressure. In between speed. One. Okay. Now, more maximum speed. Thinking. Body driving force. Tailbone behind. Tendon striking. Not arm hitting. Tendon hitting. Other hand. Hands relaxed. Speed. From here to here we must be relaxed. Upper body. Using big muscle driving force. Then snap. This hand pull. This is speed hand. Pull like pulley, rope, pull. Pull hand, not punch first. Okay? Get out! Get out! Okay? Shot time. Stopping here, sending. Key main, finishing blow. Knock down opponent one punch. His side, Steve punching. Maybe I win that. One. Maybe take 20 punches to protect myself. See what I'm saying? Skill part, how to stop. 1 inch. Total bite. This! Not, he'll beat me up. He's bigger. I'm little. Boom. Destroy. Then keep feeling going. Don't pull back. Okay?
So remember that when we come to the end of the talk. apply this. We actually
Believe me,
will.
the
Actually.
ladies in there, the children, they're all my students. That girl is a national champion, Mrs. Evans. She's very tough.
So what's going to happen now is that what he's done is to build up just using all these techniques for the punch. He's now going to do a kata, which is a series of set moves. It'll just take a moment. It's a series of set moves against an imaginary opponent for both offense and defense. What I want you to really watch is that he's going to do a lot of stuff that isn't just punching. But you'll see that the techniques that he has described, all of these ones that are listed for you on that front page, all of those are going to go into every single technique he uses. There's no difference among the techniques. They all involve the same thing.
Okay, this is what they do in competition. You go, this is very good for children too. Mentally settle them down. Normal exercise, imaginary opponents. I think you read that in there, so I don't have to repeat. So I'm going to try to show with my body how I change from one position to another using the expansion, contraction, and the mental. Okay? It's like running a continuous, making a sentence and making a story out of it, not going 1, 2, period after every word. So I'm going to try to do this as best I can here. It's called make yo. Make yo.
So now what we want to do is one more demonstration, then we're going to talk about mediation. What we'd like to do is you can see that's number E. What we're going to do is to first demonstrate something about distance, timing, and focus, something called Makiri, which is a question of how you do distance. So again, you keep this in mind for when we come to the end. So.
Okay, Mikiri, this is distance. Safe time. Body. Always knowing distance for safety. So right now he has long legs. Just goes kick slow. So much one. So this is very dangerous. So I want to keep my distance. Right? Okay, now. Go. There we go. One.
Go on, you're absolutely right.
Oh, yeah, well, the distance is shit. Distance first. One. Two. Safe. Now, not so smart. He takes a big step, I take a half a step. One. So I'm destroyed. Now this is overcompensation. I'm going to be going farther back, so I cannot get in to protect myself to stop him. Okay, destroy. Next. Destroy, this is called Megonozen, the distance. He comes, just 1 inch is a miss. No need to go way far back. 1 inch is a miss. Then I can quickly counterattack. Yeah!
So now DI, which is the next one. And the first one we're going to do, why don't you explain this?
This is Taino Sen. This is physical attack. I'm watching his physical movement. I want to beat his speed. Okay? Now this, what helping this is sending the key out. Already key, going. Not going backwards. Forward. Okay?
So Dad, what he's going to do is, as I try and punch, when he sees the punch coming, he's going to beat me and punch me first. That's the whole idea.
Okay, just undo jab and we'll turn around and do the reverse punch. I'll do 2 ways. one now, I'm going to beat him, hopefully, and I'm going to move him off balance. Now he's going to be punching a reverse punch to my face. This is destroy balance, and you can counter. One more time. Flounder. Okay. Next one. Sen no sen. Sen no sen is mental. He's thinking he's going to do it. This is ki. Now I push my ki out. Like you had your arm out, sending it. Remember you had the point here? This is like a radar. Energy going out. He thinks, bounces in my ki. I already know he's coming. Wow. So we practice with a piece of paper, newspaper. So he holds a newspaper up, and he'll either do this or he don't do this. You got to punch, see, to get the key.
But so the important thing to keep in mind, he's going to sense when I've decided to punch, when my mind has changed, before I can actually get the punch off, then he'll attack.
Yeah! Okay, next.
Last one.
Last one is called sen no sen. Sen sen no sen. Meaning I'm going to make him not want to attack me. I'm going to suppress him by saying such ki out, like the aura, pressure, showing your character, this way, weak, sending pressure out. Sending, wait, that guy may have a gun. I don't know. Something about him. You stay away. This is what you want. This is what you want, hey? So there, no fight, no win, no lose. But in a way, I won mentally.
What was your experience then?
If you could face her
Okay.
and do the same.
Come out here for a second.
I want to know.
Yeah, the key question, of course, is would you, no matter how good you are.
No, I
would.
don't have to
I
be
would already, I would.
I don't have to be in a, you don't have to be in a fighting stance to do this. This is very good for ladies walking down the street. You look like the person's going to get attacked. You probably will. So I'm telling you, tailbone tuck. Don't, knee. This is a pelvic bone tuck. Squeeze stomach. You can practice this at home. Tailbone tuck, squeeze stomach, and walk. You'll feel it pulling you. And you'll be also good posture. Shoulders square, tailbone tuck, relax, move. Squeezing, pulling. Now you have like a little ball inside. If you should get knocked down, you'll bounce back up. This way, get knocked down, now you gotta squeeze your stomach to get back up. Already connected. Okay? Mom, my feeling, I'm looking at you. This is no more different than children. I told you take the garbage out. I told you take the garbage out. Understand? There's no big secret. It's just that I'm applying more force, I know what I'm doing here. So I inhale, I exhale. Feel pressure? This is pressure coming to you. This is standing between us. That's when he was saying he thinks he moves. He's moving into my radar field. I know you're coming. So your attention. So no need attention. Go away. Go other way. Don't take them on. But pressure. Show. Sense. That's it. Okay, feel it? Okay.
Thank you very much.
It feels like heavy, something pushing on you. We practice knocking each other down with this. Knock you down.
Thank you for not knocking me down.
I just want you to feel the pressure.
Okay, so if you turn to the page that has the comparison of karate and mediation techniques, I've already told you about three training techniques that I've borrowed from karate and one technique that I've borrowed for the actual mediation. I want to go now down a list. Some of these things, or maybe most of them, won't make any sense to you. I'm trying to tell you that many of these things make sense to me. It's okay if most of them don't make any sense to you. If even one of them does, then I will have achieved the goal that I'm trying to achieve here today. So first of all, as we read down this, the first item is that process, not outcome, is the key concept. That's true for karate. I'm trying to tell you it's true for mediation, that when you do mediation, if you do the process correct, let the chips fall where they may, and you know that's really the central idea. Win, then attack, mind before impact. So you can think of this as a sparring thing in karate. There's some degree, there's an imaging involved. You know, win, then attack. I image winning before I throw the punch. Mind before impact. My mind basically sends, you know, my mind is pushing the punch before the physical action actually goes. And for me, this is also about process and commitment to the process. If I think when I'm doing mediation that I'm quite sure that I know the process, that I know that if I really do the process correctly, that if there is common ground out there, I'll be able to identify it. If there isn't common ground out there, then it won't be identified. It's the attitude I go into the mediation with. Mind before impact. Win, then attack. Not attack, then win. So if I have won before I start, the amount of I don't know what words to use, the amount of positive pressure in a kind way that I bring to the force that I bring to the mediation in the process, I think can make this marginal difference that I mentioned earlier. And I actually can think about it in this way. So I think it's very important where your mind is as you walk into the mediation itself before you ever start to do anything. Fumakomi, which you heard explained, I do this very loudly in karate, but it's this coiled spring notion, and I think of it as transitions, as a rebound reaction to challenges to the process. So if someone says the process this isn't the right process for me, or it's going wrong, or they have any kind of a challenge to the process, my rebound reaction is stop the mediation, re-explain what everything is about. So it's the same thing as the Fumakomi you saw Mr. Milewski do, to come back, to gain the pressure. Here it's the same thing. Somebody makes some challenge during the process of mediation, you're going to spin back, come forward with a solution to that problem. Zan Shin and physically over mentally continuing is the same thing, the sense of commitment felt by the party from the mediator. That sense of commitment that you bring is very important. The Zan Shin, the physically over mentally continuing, you saw how the force, the mental force that Mr. Milewski brings to bear on that. And I'm saying to the extent that you can translate something like that into a mental force and commitment of physically over mentally continuing during the mediation, I think it can help. The Mikiri is the general idea of yield to overcome. I can never think of a good example of this, even though I do it all the time. Right? So what's happening is when we're doing Mikiri, right, I was coming from Mr. Milewski and he was going back. If you got the right distance, you could come forward. It's the same thing. Somebody says what seems like a ridiculous statement in relationship to their needs and interest. You take on the full power of what they're doing. You go with it by asking all the reality testing questions that we do, so that as that plays out, the person can see that it is ridiculous, as they see the full-blown impact of what that's going to bring them. The DI, the three items on the DI you can read for yourself. This is the way I think about it. I don't think this is terribly convincing, but I do think about it this way. Particularly if you look at the last one, the sen-sen, no-sen, which you just saw demonstrated, that we just did. So by presence and attitude, I think you can control both the parties and the process. It's the presence that's important, of what you saw demonstrated. So there's really, in that sense, no need for control words or control sentences if your attitude, your mental set, is the right one. What you saw Mr. Milewski demonstrate for karate, to the extent that you can, in a polite way, transfer that to mediation. The kinmei, the focus, I really do think of it this way. So you saw Mr. Milewski talk about how everything gets focused by the breath and everything comes together at the same time. The contractions of the muscles, everything all at the same time. About 3/4 the way through crosstalk, I generally am able to do something like what I call the grand summary. I really don't know what's going on. I definitely don't know what's going on when people start to talk. About 3/4 the way through first crosstalk, I begin to get some idea about where people are going or what they might want. So it's a grand summarization. Focus, kinmei and focus. Everything gets focused right there. summarize, identify agreement, identify disagreement, make guesses about what the needs and interests are of the party, put it all together in a giant Christmas package and wrap it in a big bow type thing. Coordination of everything we know about mediation at that point. Before that, I can't do it. I mean, sometimes I can't even do it because of the crosstalk. But it's a definite technique that I use, and I think of it in that way. I need the total focus, total coordination of everything I've heard so far put together in that package in order to help the parties. The key, the tanden and the ibuki. So I think about that three separate ways. First of all, to send key, to get the attention of an uncooperative party. So somebody's having trouble focusing. I think you can do that. I've done that in mediations. The person is not focusing very well on the problem. I'm trying to do reality testing questions. If I do that by sending key in addition, even by using zanshen, I think in my mind that I'm sending the question not to them, but through them, in the way that Mr. Molesky is describing sending his key out, and the vision that he has. It's the same thing. If I'm talking to somebody and I'm reality testing with them, and I'm looking somewhat through them and asking the question just a little bit more deliberately than I otherwise would, it tends to calm people down. It tends to get them to focus if they're unfocused. This empty hand and mind, this nothingness idea that I mentioned before, is all of these things. It's a stupid mediator principle, right? We don't really know anything. It's the unit from Mars approach type thing. You empty your mind of everything. There's just sort of information flowing through. You never really know what's really going on. It's a process thing, but your mind stays more or less empty except for whatever temporarily fills it as you're asking questions. I think it helps with reflective listening if you have your mind empty and you can reflect back in that way. And to suspend judgment, as we all must in this model of mediation, and to react, right? If your mind is empty and you react only with techniques, not with judgment, that's really what we try to do a lot of the training with, and really a central reason why we fail so many people when they're trying to learn to mediate. They can't empty their mind and not judge. The timing is something that is not necessarily, I mean, I knew this before I did karate, but nevertheless, it's an interesting comparison, I think, which is, you know, the timing of what we do is very critical. When do you do the crosstalk? When do you caucus? It's a matter of judgment, of course. We'd all do it a little bit differently. The wording and the timing of questions and options is very important. So Molly and I were in a divorce mediation training a little while ago, and the person who was teaching it was really excellent, was talking about a kind of question that shouldn't have been asked, but he was wrong. The question was fine, but the timing of it and the wording of it was totally inappropriate and therefore upset the parties and did not work. And I mean, he agreed when we pointed that out, right? So timing is critical. This relaxation and ballistic motion that Mr. Molesky explained, I think of it as a kind of a rhythm. Parties are talking, you let the parties do the work, you relax, and then you come back. It's not ballistic, but you come back with the right thing at the right time. The distance to me is one of the most interesting parts. So we showed you the McCary, we did that demonstration, which is getting the distance right as we were going, right? That's the McCary, the distance. To me, it's very interesting because I now, to some extent, think of needs and interests as a karate technique. How distant am I at any given point from their needs and interests? Now, I know we all think about that in one way. I'm saying I think about it in a slightly different way. Am I near their needs and interests? How does that feel to me? Am I distant from it? Right? Because I never, even when we get a signed agreement, I never really know what their needs and interests are. It's a working hypothesis all the time that we're using. And but I feel, okay, if I'm trying to spar with Mr. Molesky, which I would be very careful not to do, but if I were, so then what would happen? What is my distance, right? And the same thing for needs and interest. If I'm trying to help the parties, how distant am I? Do I feel far away and I need to do a lot more work? Do I feel close enough to move a little faster and ask more detailed questions? The aura is something we already discussed. The main point is that if you can sense a change in the party's mind by seeing the change in the aura, the color or the shape, or if you can use it to draw a party in, that would be good. I've never been able to do anything like that, so it's something I need to learn. Melissa is one step ahead of me. She's at least in the mediation noticed it and seen what she thinks is a bit of a transfer. So we have about 10 minutes, and so if you have a karate question.
What?
Want to change it now?
Change
Show you
what?
something.
Well, wait, before you do that, I want to be, in case anybody has any questions about karate in general, we'll stay here as long as anybody wants, but if anybody has a question about karate or about mediation or this attempted merger that I've tried to make, we'd be glad to take it. Mr. Molesky will answer karate questions, but I'll try mediation.
Michael, how about for Kara and Ku, silence?
Joe?
Nothing.
Silence, you
You
think?
mean to add silence?
Matching it to the technique of silence.
Sure.
Struck me that the difference between your relaxation and power could have something to do with this hard on the issues and soft on the people. So you
How do you, I tried to do
both at
that.
the same time.
I thought of trying to do it, but I couldn't make it work in my mind. How do you see that?
Well, I think there's a kind of a softness that I would feel toward the people, and then, just this idea that underneath.
Okay, on the issues, hard on the issues,
moving,
right. Yeah, sure, good.
I mean, that's what I visualize.
That's fine, yeah, no, that's good.
In some ways, Michael, these techniques sound wonderful if I was one of the negotiators, but as a mediator, to me it sounds, and of course I'll use every technique I can possibly drag out of this to do all the things I'm about ready to criticize. It sounds as if some of these processes could be somewhat, should we say, manipulated.
Manipulated or manipulative of the parties?
Manipulative of the parties
Sure.
to some degree.
It's like, I think that's right.
And I'm not criticizing except theoretically,
thank you very much.
empowerment.
No, I think that's absolutely correct, and I think that it just speaks to all of the techniques that we use, which is you have to be able to recognize that line, that you don't go beyond, because everything we do, all the techniques that we do in mediation, you can use to manipulate people. We could get a lot more agreements, right, if we were willing to go further with our techniques and manipulate people, right? We could. Well, we don't. That's part of what the training is about, part of what, Andy tries to get in quality control of mediators. So I agree with you totally about that. Any of these things you could do that way.
Just another comment. I'd have to figure out which one it is, but it's got something to do either with the distance or the ballistic demonstration. That comes very close to our flip, or our reframe, depending on who taught it and who used the word. But very, very close to that, using all of their energy, their weight, to let them triple over themselves.
That's very good, right? And I should have put something down, like Mr. Molesky showed. Absolutely, I like that.
Well, I think Ed's point about the manipulative nature of being able to practice these techniques and know them, I think distance would be very important in that, knowing what your proper distance with the parties are so that you're working with the parties. You're not manipulating them to do something different than they need to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. These are all, I should be real clear about this. If somebody else were doing karate and tried to put something like this together, it might look very different. In my trying to communicate with all of you about it, this is sort of personalized the way I think about it. Again, my hope is that there's some place amongst all of this that where my mind crosses over into yours and there's a connection and you see a way to use something here. So that's...
When I talked a minute ago about manipulation, Mr. Molesky said, it's what, strategy?
Strategy.
Strategy. Could you amplify that?
Well, you don't want to, what you're doing, I'm doing karate. Mine's fighting. I'm pushing to keep them away from me. So you want to do a more softer approach, right? But still have control of the situation.
Right.
this is the strategy. You're coming in there confident, you're using it, and then that rebound, that distance, I don't know anything about this, you got me talking about it. I'm just trying to say that rebound, like he's attacking me, like in fighting, and maybe this guy's attacking you. So you rebound, come back. Moving, strategy, looks like going this direction, but not. Using some diversion, feinting, make him think. You're controlling this person, like a little pool toy. Come, come, come. You have all control of him. Pushing, pulling. Never let him have control. This is using your key. I don't know. I explained to you.
Well, but you notice, I just
But
want
not
you to
being
notice what
me.
happened.
I have to do it this way.
But notice what just happened. I mean, even though Mr. Milewski knows nothing about mediation at all, he's able to have, even if the conversation wasn't great, I don't know how it went for the two of you, but still, but the point of it is that they can communicate with some terminology that is shared, and that's, I think, part of what I'm trying to say.
I'm thinking about this being in close. Let me see here. A case where a party gets belligerent and jumps up from the table, and the mediator wants to stay with the party, and sense on the one hand that you're receptive to what you acknowledge the party's angry, you're receptive to their feeling, but you're also going to control the process. So it's like when it's like staying close to the party and letting the party know that you're not frightened of them. But the one little twist on it is that you've just been addressing this issue of a certain, maybe a hardness of appearance, and I'm wondering if you can get the same closeness, like where you're close enough to land a blow, but without the hardness of look.
No, you can do it without it. That's why I said karate, you have to do the hardness. You can do this off. You can push ki just by pushing, but you're still going to have to send it with your eyes. But pushing it this way is a little different, you know what I'm saying? Just relax this and just sit in your chair and just squeeze your stomach. You push ki and talk all the time. You don't have to this way. This way, I'm already intimidating him. Don't come. I'm warning him with my eyes. This is called min-sin, I victor. I'm winning with my eyes already. Here, you can win with your eyes, still look at him, but not threaten him. It's how hard the punch is how strong I send my ki. Then you can sit at your table and do the same. I guess you could do the same thing. I know I can. You can fit the degree of pressure, power, through hime, through this tendon. Let's go this way. Another question. This is like a little drill. You're not going to do this to the table or anything, but I'm going to show you. What's difference in hitting here is how much I compress here. Okay. 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 This is a stronger key. Understand? Pressure to the floor. So this is, I'm going to using my center floor. 1. So feeling 1, 2, 3. Okay? Like his kick. Remember that punch? This would be bouncing. Watch. 1. Okay? Like I want to kill a cockroach. I don't want a cockroach in my house. 1. I don't want a pregnant cockroach escaping. Understand? So pressure ki. How strong you want to push your ki? You sit in a chair, writing pencil paper, you're looking at him. Push your ki. Pushing a little bit, he feels it.
Could you face this way and do that? Because it's a milder version.
Okay. No, I'm just sitting here, and I'll direct it to you. I'm sitting over here, and I'm no ki. Can you feel? More? More? I'm not looking this way now.
And if I could, and so what I was saying before was that I'd actually tried this in mediation where I had an uncooperative party where somebody wasn't taking the questions, the reality testing questions, exactly what he just did. And my experience is that it feels like it works. I mean, I can't prove this, of course, but
I control-
exactly what he just demonstrated.
I have